Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's DuxSoup webinar. Today, our presenter, Giles Garnett, the head of professional services, will be showing how to search and filter on LinkedIn using DuxSoup. Me, Jin, the head of customer support, will be answering your questions via live chat. And at the end of the webinar, as usual, we will have a Q&A with Giles. So let's begin.
Okay, thank you, Jin. Good morning, afternoon, or evening to everyone joining today's DuxSoup webinar. Once again, we're very grateful for you to join us today, especially during these unsettling and unusual times. We hope that you are all safe and well, and would like to reassure our customers that DuxSoup remains unaffected by the current situation, and we're continuing to fully support our customers all around the world. The topic of today's webinar, as you can see, is searching and filtering with DuxSoup and LinkedIn, and we'll talk about how to refine your search and filtering activities so that you can optimally target the people you are looking for within the LinkedIn environment. Now, I understand we have a lot of people registered for today's webinar, and very briefly, for those that are new to DuxSoup, this is what it can do for you. So using DuxSoup, it's easy to find, attract, and engage with your prospects in LinkedIn. And DuxSoup can automatically view LinkedIn prospect profiles, endorse their skills, follow their activity on LinkedIn, and send personalized messages on your behalf. You can also set up an automated LinkedIn drip campaign to your prospects that stops automatically when a prospect responds. Now, because of today's topic being the searching and filtering masterclass, I'm not going to go into details about how to set that up and everything, but be aware that as we only have Jin on the web chat today, if you've got basic setup questions, use the support pages as much as possible, because we'd like to try and keep the questions on the web chat as much as possible on the topic of today's webinar. So if it takes Jin a little bit of time to respond, she is on her own, and we have a lot of people online today. So firstly, why spend time on searching and filtering, especially when DuxSoup takes the legwork out of doing visiting, inviting profiles? What you need to remember is what an extraordinary resource LinkedIn is. There are over 675 million monthly users of LinkedIn, with a reported 61 million users identified as senior level influencers, and over 40 million in what have been identified as decision-making positions. Indeed, there are over 30 million businesses on LinkedIn, and as a platform, the user base continues to grow at an impressive rate. One of the most powerful things about the LinkedIn platform is its search capability, which once you get to grips with it, can massively enhance your ability to focus your outreach and lead generation activities. So today I will cover some of the basics about how to use the LinkedIn search tools, and then also touch on Boolean searches, and also using regular expression options built into DuxSoup that help you ensure that your targeting is as accurate and as efficient as possible. So those are the things we're going to touch on today. I've got a mixture of slides and demonstration as usual, and hopefully everyone can see my screen clearly, and hopefully the technology stays with us all the way through today. So one of the most important limitations to remember when carrying out searches in LinkedIn is the number of results that LinkedIn will actually show you. So if you're using just a standard free LinkedIn platform, you only get to see the first 1,000 results. If you're using premium LinkedIn's, for example, Sales Navigator, you get to see the first 2,500 results. And that's really important to remember that, because if your search result is greater than those numbers, you might be missing out on potential leads. You just won't see them because they've dropped off the end of your search result. So if you're carrying out a search in standard LinkedIn, you might start with the basic filters. So if I flick to my browser, one moment. So if you were to carry out a search in standard LinkedIn, you might start with the basic filters. And you can use these filters along the top here. decide on the degree of connection and also perhaps on the location of your target audience. If I press on the All Filters button here, this gives me the filters that are available in standard LinkedIn. And as you can see here, you can see if they're mutual connections. You can have locations, current companies, past companies, industry, profile language, schools, interests, services, and then also first name, last name, title, company, school, etc. So if I was just to look for CEOs and apply that, I'm looking at second degree connections, and then I would also, for example, maybe put a location into that search field. And this is what I would then see. I can see here that this search is still over 1,000. So I'm still missing some of those results because this is in standard LinkedIn. If I scroll to the bottom of this page, we have 10 results per page, and I only see 100 pages, hence the 1,000. So in order to refine this search and to see all of this research, I would need to refine this down further. If you're using Sales Navigator, then you have the possibility to use additional filters. We'll come on to that in a second. So if I go back here to all filters, and then I look at, for example, breaking this down by industry, I can then apply another filter. And then that takes me down to a much more manageable 300 or so results. If I scroll down here, I'm going to end up with 31 pages of 10 per page. And every time you see here the green DuxSoup at your service icon come up, then that means the DuxSoup is ready to process that list. So then when the duck has turned green in the top right hand corner, then DuxSoup is ready to carry out automated actions on your behalf, depending on your activity that you're wanting to do, whether that's visit profiles or scan the results list, or perhaps visit and invite people to join your network. So that's one way to do that within standard LinkedIn. If I now go to continue this search in Sales Navigator, we can then see the additional filters that are available within the Sales Navigator environment. So I still have the same filters in place as I had on the other one, but it's taken the job title out. I'd had CEO in there. So if I now put in that keyword in again, press enter, we now see I have 793 results. And we can see here on the left-hand side all the different filters that are available to me here, but there are actually more. And if I press the View All Filters button, we get this pop-up box here, which shows me all of the additional filters here. A lot of these are only available in Sales Navigator. And the useful thing with Sales Navigator is it gives us the ability to not just look within groups, it also allows us to look to exclude certain areas. So for example, if I want to look in information technology and services, but then if I wanted to perhaps also look in internet or maybe exclude internet services, I can choose various industries and perhaps exclude those areas from my search as well. So you have the extra level of granularity available within Sales Navigator to exclude certain areas. Another very important thing to do that you can do within Sales Navigator is you can also search within, if you scroll down to the bottom of this section, you can search within groups. So if I just clear my current selections, one moment, let's clear everything. I'll carry out a new search. So if I click on advanced search and I look search for leads, I'll take out CEO. One moment. If I scroll down to the bottom, there we go. We're moving again slowly. Everything's gone a little bit slow at the moment. So now if I look here under groups, and if I wanted, for example, to look for people who are in a lead generation group here, I don't have to be a member of that group. If I have Sales Navigator, I can look within that group anyway. If I'm only using standard LinkedIn, I don't have to have that ability. I have to be a member of a group to look within that. But this is an extra way within Sales Navigator that you can look within discussion groups. So that gives you that extra capability to see people who already have that level of possibly mutual interest that you're looking for. One very important thing to do as well is don't forget to save your searches. So within Sales Navigator, you can do that with this capability here and receive alerts frequently to tell you when these searches are updated. It's also possible to purely bookmark your searches. And that's a really easy way to do that. So you can just create a standard bookmark within Chrome or whichever browser you're using. The important thing, though, to do is to make sure you label your bookmarks accordingly. Otherwise, you can forget which search criteria you've put under each bookmark, because it just comes up with a LinkedIn search title usually. So that way you can easily revisit your searches on a regular basis. So those are the basic search facilities within LinkedIn Standard and Sales Navigator. So if we now move to back to the slides, and we now talk about some Boolean searches. So this is a type of search that allows a user to use keywords in combination with and, not, and or to produce more relevant and targeted results. So for example, we'll come on to a bunch of examples in a minute. A Boolean search could be for CEO or owner, not manager, and that would limit the search results only to those documents containing the two words. Be really clear here that Boolean expressions are case sensitive, and or not must be in uppercase. And you can also use parenthesis in combination with the Boolean search terms to help you further refine your filters. So I'm going to go through these examples here that I've got on this page. We're going to go through those and we can see the numbers change depending on which expressions we're using here with the Boolean searches. So if I go back to, once again, to my standard search here, and we'll clear everything that I have so far. What I'm going to do is I'm going to limit this to second-degree connections located here in the Netherlands. There we go. And I'm just going to use the keyword search. Now you could put this also perhaps in the job title search box, for example. But here I'm going to say I want to look for CEO, or, that has to be in capital letters, director, and again we're going to say or, owner. And then that expression, I will now carry that out, and we can see now we get 30,000 results. Okay, so let's narrow that down a little bit further. So we'll take that one out and make that a more local search for myself. We'll apply that, and we can see now we get somewhere over 4,000 results. So that's still too big, really. We would need to narrow that down further. So what we could then say, for example, is we have CEO or director or owner, but let's say we don't want manager in there. So we do that, and we're now down to somewhere around 3,000 results. So what we could also then do is to maybe take out one of these ors. So we'll say CEO or owner, but not manager. And we can see now we're down to 2,000. So you can see how the numbers fluctuate depending on the criteria that we put within our Boolean search. Another example, perhaps, would be to say, right, we want to look for web and designer. If I carry out that search, we have somewhere around 200. But we can then also, as I said, we can use the parenthesis as well. And we can say here, for example, web and, open brackets, designer or developer. And then we are including designer or developers, and we now have a larger search result. But perhaps we then also want to narrow that down further, where we don't want maybe graphic designers in there. So we could say here, maybe add not graphic, and then we reduce our search back down to 200. So there are lots of possibilities there with how we can use the Boolean search terms to help us narrow down our search target audience. Another thing we can do is use the speech marks to help us use more than one word within our search criteria. So for example, if I put lead generation here, and that's as one phrase, and then we say perhaps we also want to put and then we would like to perhaps go for specialist or expert. If I do that, we now get 49. And we can play around with this again. So we're looking at this at a fairly local level. Let's look for a slightly larger area. And we'll, there we go. So now we have 600 results there, and that's looking for lead generation and then either specialist or experts. But then maybe we also want to narrow that down a little further and say, and not manager. And there we go. We've narrowed that down even further. So there are all sorts of different possibilities there. There's a lot of information available. If you just Google Boolean searches, that gives you lots of ideas there as to how you can carry out these searches and make them as powerful as possible. So those are the examples there of the Boolean search. What I'd like to now touch on, if we go back to the slides, is how DuxSoup can also help you to exclude certain profiles when you're carrying out your visits. And we can do that using what we call regular expressions. Now, by adding the additional filtering rules by using the regular expression, you can complement the LinkedIn search and skipping functionality. So for example, here we have this expression here, and these anchors, quantifiers and operators, etc., in conjunction with this phrase. In this case here, I'm asking DuxSoup to skip any profile that contains the text IBM, Microsoft, or Tesla in its pattern. And the way that we can do that in DuxSoup, if I come back to my browser, now I have a saved search which I carried out earlier. So here I've done a search for people located working within IBM, Microsoft, and Tesla, so I can demonstrate this to you. So all these people, what the regular expression does, it interrogates the HTML on your search result. If I press the DuxSoup icon and go to the options button, hopefully this is big enough and everyone can see this clearly. If I go to the skipping tab, we have all of these various possibilities for skipping, which help you use your visits as efficiently as possible. But as you can see here, this same text that I had on the slides is here under the skip profiles that match pattern. And then here again, I'm using these various anchors and quantifiers and operators to specify here that I want to skip anyone who has IBM, Microsoft, or Tesla in their profile snippet that we see on the search result. So that's how I've set it up. I'm not doing any other automated actions because I'm just purely going to carry out some visits as a demonstration here. So these people here working at Microsoft or IBM or Tesla. So theoretically now, when I start the robot, I'm just going to visit these profiles. What we should see is that DuxSoup will identify those markers. And as you can see here, it's seeing that it's matching those patterns that I have defined using the regular expression to skip those profiles. This is very, very useful, especially when it comes to wanting to skip certain maybe competitors or people in certain role definitions, or maybe by location. So it's basically based on any text that appears in the search result. So there's obviously one person on here who works at those places who doesn't have that text pattern on their profile. But that's how that works. The regular expressions in DuxSoup help us to skip those profiles with those text patterns there that you've defined. And you can define those yourself. So if you go to the support pages and look up Regex in the support pages, you will find this sample here. Where are we? Let's go back here. There we go. You'll find an example in the documentation which you can copy and paste into this field and customize that to your own requirements, adding maybe additional companies or putting your own definitions in there depending on the industries that you're looking at. Okay, so if we go back to the slides a second, if you want to find out more about regular expressions, you can go to regex101.com, and there you can trial all sorts of different things against various texts to see how that works. And all the various anchors and quantifiers, etc., are defined on that page there as well. So if you want to know more about that, you can go there. So in summary from today, be aware of how many results LinkedIn will show you. So try and target, when you're looking at your search results, under 1,000 for standard LinkedIn, under 2,500 for premium users, Sales Navigator, Recruiter, etc. Otherwise, you're going to be missing people off your list or potential targets, potential leads. Use the LinkedIn filters to narrow your search, be that by industry or geography or seniority, etc., keywords. And then use the Boolean search options to include and exclude certain keywords from your search. And then lastly, use the DuxSoup skipping and regular expression options to skip profiles around competitors and that sort of thing. It's really important that you, especially if you're running a free LinkedIn account, that you want to optimize your use of your visits, because we know that LinkedIn are keeping a close eye on user behavior, and we want to be as effective and as efficient as possible when using DuxSoup and automating our lead generation activities. That's everything I wanted to cover today. I hope that that's fulfilled people's requirements and given you a few pointers as to how you can experiment with these different options that are available to you. So coming up in the coming period, we've got a number of different webinars planned already. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll be taking you through how to manage multiple LinkedIn accounts with DuxSoup. For those who are acting on behalf of other clients, for example, and you're wanting to run multiple accounts at once, how you can set those up and how you can most efficiently manage those sort of scenarios. And then during May, we're going to be just circling back around and recapping how to get started with DuxSoup Pro and latterly DuxSoup Turbo. All of the information is available on our website under the webinars link. As usual, that's the past ones, the recordings of the previous webinars, and if you want to subscribe to any of the forthcoming webinars as well. As always, we have the booster and technical calls available. They can be booked through the normal links on the website through DuxSoup.com. And our usual useful links, the homepage, the blogs, the webinars, the YouTube channel, and the support page, which is managed by our fabulous support team, and of course our very active Facebook page as well. We seem to have got there a little quicker than usual, Jin. We're at the questions stage. Normally we're not quite this quick, but hopefully there's a few questions to cover.
Of questions today, so let's start with.
I said it was going to be busy.
Let's start with the first one. So, what is the benefit of scanning a list instead of visiting?
Okay, so for those who aren't aware, if I just pop out of the slides a second, when you have a search result, oh, I didn't stop this one. Let's stop that one a second. There we go. When we have a search result, what you might want to do is, rather than going through and visiting every profile or having DuxSoup visit every profile on your behalf, what you might want to do is scan the result, and that just scrapes off some high-level information from the search results. You can then download that data to a CSV file, and then you can edit that CSV file. So there may be the possibility, therefore, to take out some of those results that you may not want to visit. There may be some competitors or that sort of thing in your list, and then you can revisit that profile. Revisit that list. So using DuxSoup under here, if you go here, you go to revisit. Once you've downloaded your data and edited your data, the CSV file, you can then go to the revisit option here and upload your own list. You also have the possibility to add extra data into that list for when it comes to personalizing your messages. So by scanning, editing your CSV file, and possibly adding extra fields in for your messages, you can use the message tagging, the markers within the messages. You can actually add an extra level of personalization to your messages. So if I just very briefly go to the options section here to explain what I mean by the markers. If I turn on this option here, you can see here these P1 to P5, so P1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 markers value from the CSV file. If you're revisiting, you can put additional text into those fields to add an extra level of personalization to your message. That's not possible if you're purely visiting from a search result from LinkedIn. However, you're carrying out your visits from an uploaded CSV file, then you have that extra level of personalization available to you. Okay.
Is it possible to filter by date you connected? And is it possible to filter by excluding leads that have a tag?
So what was the first bit again? Sorry, Jen, I missed the first bit.
It's okay. Is it possible to filter by date you have connected with the person?
Not easily. When you see, if it's already a connection, of course, if you look at your network, then let's have a quick look. If you look at your connections, of course, then they are immediately ordered by how recent they've connected with you. Now, I'm aware that some people have been able to, one thing that you can do is download all of your data from LinkedIn. And when you download your data from LinkedIn, you can request that data through your normal LinkedIn profile options. Then you get a list of all of your connections and the date that they have become a connection. You could then, for example, scan your first degree connections, download your data from LinkedIn, carry out a VLOOKUP in Excel to match up that data, and then be able to add that data to your CSV file, and therefore be able to do that way. But other than that, you can't see, you don't normally get how long they've been a connection with you. You can see how long they've been a member of LinkedIn under the filters if you carry out a search. I think it's under here. Let's have a quick look. There is an option. I think it may be under the in Sales Navigator that you can see how long they've been a member of LinkedIn. But yeah, the recentness of connection is not a standard filter. However, there is a way to do it by downloading your own data and then doing maybe a VLOOKUP against your downloaded data of your first degree connections, which you could scan. I think the other part of the question there was being able to skip people who you've tagged. So again, if you're using tags, and I always advise people when they're carrying out a search and then they have certain criteria that they carry out, they add tags to profiles as they visit them. I'm a big advocate of using the Dux-Soup tags. And if you're using those effectively here, under the automated actions, you can auto tag people as you visit them. And then under your skipping options, you can then choose to skip certain profiles that you already tagged, for example. So that gives you that extra possibility then. And then also remember, you've got the history skipper as well. So if you're visiting, if you're revisiting or circling around again to visit similar lists to those that you've visited in the past, and there may be some overlap, then you may decide to change your history skipper to make sure you're not visiting people again and again and again that you may not want to. Okay. Any more, Jin?
Is it possible to filter out first-level contacts who have replied to you?
Is it possible to filter out first-level contacts that have replied to you? If that is a reply to your invitation, if it's been a so it's a DuxSoup message that you've sent them, is that correct? A DuxSoup invitation?
I think when you send a connection request and then they reply to you.
Okay, so if we just open the, I probably will need to make this a bit bigger. Let's zoom in a little more. So here on the support page, if I put in tags, and we look at the various system tags, so here we can see what tags are applied to profiles depending on what stage of the flow that your new connections are at. Everybody that you invite through DuxSoup will get this Duck default invited tag, and then once a profile has been added as a connection, MessageBridge adds this, and so you can use these tags as a way to exclude those. So you could add those tags to your skipping options here according to your requirements, and that would be the way to handle that.
Only available in Navigator.
You can only search within groups that you're not a member of in Navigator. You can search within groups that you're a member of in standard LinkedIn, but yeah, you have to be a member of those groups. Once you're a member of that group, all of those members, all the members of that group effectively become part of your network, and you can then message people within groups that you are members of in standard LinkedIn.
What is the difference between using not and not?
That's a good question. Yeah, so that's when you're wanting to be very specific. Let's have a look if we can just go back to let's go back to carry out search here and try and illustrate that. So let's look for, so we had here, yeah, lead generation and specialist or expert, and not manager. So let's have a quick look. Let's try and make this down to a more manageable number so that we can see where the difference is. So here we have lead generation and specialist or expert and not manager. And we ended up there with, let's have a quick look, 82 results. If we now just say, take out the and just put not manager, you end up with the 82 results. I think it's purely just in what I'd copied and pasted there. There is absolutely no difference. So because we would not normally use and not. That's what I was thinking in the top of my head, but I yeah, thought it would be easier to demonstrate that. So you would not normally use and not. They are separate markers in the Boolean search terms.
Is there a maximum length for the Boolean expression?
Not that I've come across. I'm not aware of it, but don't know what the character limit on the search expressions are in LinkedIn. It's not something I've managed to come across, but I'd be fascinated to know if somebody has. I suspect there are people who have probably more experience in putting very long Boolean search terms in than I have. So yeah, I've not reached a limit there, but I would imagine if you're using lots of different criteria in your search terms, then maybe you have, but not that I'm aware of.
A way to filter inactive profiles.
Filter inactive profiles. Not that I'm aware of. Of course, the most commonly used one is that we look for is if people don't have a profile photo. We tend to believe that if people don't have, it's a very commonly held concept that if people don't have a profile photo, they tend to be inactive. But I'm not aware of a way to filter with people who are not logging on and not checking LinkedIn.
Does the Boolean search apply to entire profile or just what's in the title?
So it'll be looking at the keywords that you have within your profile. So if you look at your own profile, let's have a quick look. Yeah, basically it's within your high-level profile that people see when they first look at when you're looking at that first section. It'll be under the keywords and those sorts of things that you've defined within your profile. It won't look through the complete profile, but it will look at the high-level profile information that you've put at the high level in LinkedIn.
So, and maybe the last question, is it possible to filter according to the size of the company?
Yes. But I believe only, let's have a quick look. I believe only in Sales Navigator. Let's just come out of here and go to Sales Navigator. Wait for this to load a second. So if we look at all of the filters here, there you go, you can see company headcount here. You can certainly, let's just open the all filters so we can see everything here. If we scroll down here and we look at company headcount, so you can quite easily filter by the size of the company as well. Yes, you can add or indeed exclude. I believe you can exclude, no, maybe not. Yeah, you can just add certain company headcounts there. Okay.
Just probably a last question. So just for our new users, is it possible to use DuxSoup without a premium LinkedIn account?
Absolutely. You can use DuxSoup with a free LinkedIn account. You will, of course, therefore, DuxSoup basically identifies what sort of LinkedIn accounts you have, whether it's a paid account or a standard free account, and behavior of the robot by default will be managed according to the type of LinkedIn account that you have. Let's just very quickly go to DuxSoup options. So yeah, if you have a standard free LinkedIn account, all of these, if you have a DuxSoup Pro or Turbo account, then you can carry out all of these actions on your LinkedIn profile. And yeah, behavior of the robot will be determined by the type of profile you have. Of course, depending on the size of your network and that sort of thing will depend on how many profile visits and connection requests you're able to send per day, and messages as well. But yes, many of our users are free LinkedIn have a free LinkedIn profile, and happily using DuxSoup to carry out their lead generation activities.
Today,
Is that all of them?
yes.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody for joining us today. Hopefully we've been able to cover as much as we can there, and we've not hopefully had too many technical issues. Hopefully you've been able to see the screen okay. And yes, I'll be back in 2 weeks' time. I will be covering how to manage multiple accounts. And in the meantime, I wish you all well. See you next time. Thank you.